Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm so pleased to be joined by Kurt Russell, a former Emmy nominee and an absolute legendary actor whose latest project is the Apple TV Plus series Monarch: Legacy of Monsters. Kurt, I asked this to Wyatt actually just moments ago, but when they first approached you guys to do this, I know you've talked about, but in terms of the conversations you both had, like, why was it something like, what did you guys talk about in terms of like deciding you wanted to do this or attempt this to play the same
Well,
character?
it was just sort of the double-edged sword of looking at the title at the time. It was just sort of, for us, it was like Godzilla. Well, okay. That could be interesting, or it could be bad, or it could be, I don't know. Let's check it out. Let's see what it is. And we started to meet and talk, and eventually came to the conclusion that if we could find a character that we felt was worthy of 10 hours of telling this story, they were certainly interested in trying to make the human beings, the story, and this terrific backdrop. In terms of science fiction, I've always loved science fiction. It all comes down to two words: what if? And I like this as a what if. What if this was happening? What if all of a sudden, you look out your window and you're going, what the hell is that thing? What's going on here? And these monsters are here. They're real. I like the fact that they want to play it for real, that they're not laughing it off, they're not rising, they're not winking. This is bad news, and somebody's got to figure it out, and we're going to focus on the people who are trying to do that. So within the confines of that, Wyatt and I had a great time talking with Chris Black and Matt Fraction and Tori and then all the machinations that took place in terms of trying to make something that would be really entertaining and what's the word? I felt on make it personal, make it relatable for people. So that was where we started.
Yeah, and it really does. It really is a great. I think you pull it off. You have such a tricky role because you're playing, the older version of Lee. So we have Wyatt as younger Lee. I guess you have to make it feel seamless and imbue him with like all this growth, right? And stuff we don't even see. I guess, how did you kind of approach that aspect of the performance to make it feel like it's the same guy, but obviously like with decades of life, that we're not seeing
That's
even in the show?
that's actually, for us, it was the question. Could we do that? Because it's very easy to quickly fall into father and son. Very easy to do that. And in fact, we came to find out when we were doing some publicity for it in Brazil that it had never been done before, where two known actors, father and son, were playing the same person. A lot of father and sons playing fathers and sons, and even some, Wyatt and I had done it once before, but Wyatt wasn't a known actor when he was 12 years old, and so this was a completely different thing. To always do that, to always keep that in mind, yeah, it became important to find places. I was kind of hard on it, where I'd say we need some cinematic blends, we need some help here to connect the past and the future and the present. Then it's up to Wyatt and I to find the same person. And in that regard, a lot of it was me, I think, reacting or responding, I should say, to what Wyatt was doing in terms of his energy, his style, his way, in terms of what he was laying down as Lee. Of course, I was going to do it as a much older guy, so a lot can happen in between. I'm proof of that. but it was an interesting thing for me to one day, when I was off. We had sort of two units going. The unit that was Wyatt, Mari, and Anders, and then Anna and Ren and Kirsty and I were sort of in our unit. And I was off one day, and so I said, I'm going to go over and see what's going on with Wyatt. It was early on, and it was fascinating. For the first time, I was watching Wyatt. I'd been on his sets before, but I'd watched him work and watched on the finished product. But I was never in this situation. And suddenly I wasn't watching Wyatt anymore. I was watching this actor play this role that I was going to share in playing. And it was really fascinating. And it was like, there was a moment where I said to myself, this guy's really good, man. I gotta get it together here and bring it. Find what he's doing. And that was the energy change. His energy and mine are slightly different. We obviously have a lot of physical similarities and things like that, and idiosyncrasies too. But we had to find the idiosyncrasies that sort of work for that character, and we still are. I mean, we're still doing it.
Yeah, it's really great. I'm sure everyone who's watching this is a huge fan of your work. I am seen many of your movies and love them, but I'd argue the scene in the finale where Lee reunites with Keiko is maybe the best work you've ever done, just because of the level of difficulty, because you have to really like, that's an actress you have not worked with, right? And a character you have in theory met for your whole life and like have this great relationship with, Lee has. But so you have to like pay off all this work that the show has done. And it's so emotional. And I've watched that scene many times and I like cry every time. I think it is so great. And I guess,
You know,
how did you even approach
that's an
that? I thought
interesting
it's
thing.
just great.
It's really interesting to hear you say that. My son Boston watched all 10. He's a student of the game. He was a religious studies major, and he's really he knows a lot about the mythology of a lot of what this takes place in, it comes from. And it was interesting to watch him watch the whole thing as we were watching it together. I've only watched it once, a little bit with Goldie, sort of in and out quick, and then this one we sort of watched the whole thing, and he said the same thing to me. He said, "I think that's the best thing I've ever seen you do, Pa." And I was really kind of struck by it. I can remember shooting the day, and it was a strange thing. For some reason, whenever I was working with Mari, I just I like the emotionality of whatever the connection is that we have as human beings is overriding, and it was easy to do. I had a lot to do with what that scene was, so I understood it completely. And I felt that if things were done properly with Young Lee in the beginning of the story, then that would pay off at the end. That would really be important for the audience to see that moment of. It's a very bizarre. It's a completely bizarre situation, but you can imagine it was one that I wanted to make relatable. Imagine if you're in the position. I remember saying to Mari one time, "Who do you think's coming out from behind that tree?" And she said, "Well, you." I don't know. I mean, I said, "No, Wyatt's coming around from behind that tree." And some people were around. They suddenly went, "That's oh yeah,
Huh.
that's right. It's not him. He's a completely different looking person now. He's in there somewhere," and it gives the scene, I think, the proper context for the actors to play it in. And it's nice to hear that, because I felt that I felt as I would do something in a Godzilla type movie or a Godzilla movie period. If we can make some people cry and feel something for the human beings in it, I think we've done something that hasn't been done, and it's something we would like to do.
Yeah,
You know?
it is. It's really fascinating. It's incredible. I was just like, this really lands the plane
Yeah,
so well.
it's really
It's so good. So
yeah. You can't get away from it. And then the final moment for her, for Anna, the final moment of realizing that she's talking, that really is her grandmother, and for her grandmother to realize that really is her granddaughter. It's just mind blowing. It's for these people, it's mind blowing. They can't. None of them can get it together.
right.
And I think that's that's an interesting thing to play while you're playing some of the top end of what's going on in the scene. Your brain can't handle what it's looking at and what it's experiencing.
I spoke to Ren Matabi, who plays Kintaro on the show, and he said that having you there was like a great experience because you had so much experience. And even Wyatt, just now when I was talking to him, he was like, "Man, everybody like that. It's fun watching people like see my dad on the set because of the energy you bring and stuff." I guess like, how do you like I'm like, how do you keep up? You seem so enthusiastic about these things. Like, how do you maintain that
You know,
enthusiasm?
it is a fun thing. I've seen a lot of actors be interviewed, and it's kind of difficult to watch most of the time. And so I join that crowd whenever I'm talking to someone about it. Um, I honestly, I think there's for some people, they have stunted growth. They find human beings endlessly fascinating. You're endlessly curious about them. You're endlessly curious about their stories, what they've gone, what they go, how it relates to you. I don't know. I just continue to find that interesting. I continue to find storylines something that's fun to play with, because what can you do that everybody's seen everything. What was it? Shakespeare said there's 26 stories, and so you got to find versions of that. But the truth is that human beings are endlessly fascinating, and I suppose it's that I don't. I've gone through periods of time where I go, okay, I'm out. That's it. I'm done. It's like be a lot of people happy to hear that. But I'd always, there'd be there'd be a money reason or something, or go to work, or be a personnel reason, like, oh man, I've always wanted to work with that person, or a director, or a studio is going to really go behind it, or they push it, and then they get you in the room and they talk about it, and it's all of a sudden you're kind of like going, well, they really want to do it. Why shouldn't I? and there's 1,000 different ways to, I guess, get your juices flowing. But the truth is, I think for some people, and I think I'm one of them, it's a bit of a stunted growth thing. I don't get tired of the fun of telling stories and creating people, creating characters.
You mentioned that's great, and you mentioned Mari, and I think, like you said, you really connected with her. You mentioned Anna before too. She's fast. It's an incredible actor. Obviously now on the show and Shogun, she's so great.
Yeah,
I think your scenes with her amazing. I guess, how did you find her as a scene partner, and what maybe surprised you about her?
Well, the thing that I liked about what was there automatically was the sort of authenticity of the Japanese culture and people that are in the Godzilla world. Mm-hmm. And I like the way it was treated. It was they speak it a lot, right? I mean, they're not speaking English a lot. I think Mel Gibson cracked the code when he did Passion of the Christ, and he had everyone speaking Aramaic or whatever languages they were supposed to be speaking instead of English. I almost feel like anything historical in that regard can't be done differently anymore. I think Mel changed the scene, and we were continuing that with Monarch. And I felt that Anna and Ren, especially, there was just something so authentic about both of them. Ren, just as a man, he just harkens back almost to another time of how men were, and he's living in this time. And interesting actor in that regard. Anna's got one of those, first of all, the camera loves her, and almost anything she does, it's compelling to watch. And I don't know, she got with it. She really. I think Anna really likes what she does as an actress. I think she's encouraged by it. Kiersey is sort of by nature. She's a natural expounder of feelings, emotions, showing things. It's just sort of fun for her to do that, and he comes easy to her. We had a lot of really good actors in this show. And they were going to have to hold their own against a very, very large backdrop. Having been involved with some of those before, it's just important to understand that we're doing a what if. What if this happened? This is real. It's not happening. It is happening. Or you've got to deal with it, and it's an important reminder, I guess, all the time for us. I really had a great time with the people on the show all the way down the line. It was a real good bunch. I was disappointed that Wyatt and I never got a chance to work together. We did one day, but it was so outrageous it didn't really fit. We knew that, but we did it anyway to see how it could be possibly used, and maybe as we continue, we may in the future. But I really like to work with him, and the most fun I had on the show was working with Wyatt on the screenplays, right. Working with him and finding how why Lee Shaw matters to the story.
You mentioned, like, obviously there was renewed for season 2. I mean, we don't know it, like, we don't see anybody for anything for Lee, right? You could definitely come back, I feel like. So I mean, I don't know if you've thought about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like, to me, it's almost like in today's world, you have to be realistic. If you're going to promote a show, you're not promoting it because you're not in it. So I think that that it's one of those things where you begin safe to say, hey, if she could survive down there that long, and he did survive down there one time and came back, God, I got a feeling, all signs point to, right. But it's to me, that's not something to hold back from the audience. I personally I'll see what we come up with, but I think that what happened in the first season was you kind of got everything. You got all the utensils on the table have been laid. You understand who's got what problems and why. You understand what they've all got as a problem and why, and they're trying to figure out what to do about it. So I enjoy that what if. I enjoy that premise, and I hope that we continue to open up categories of interest for the viewer.
Yeah, as a viewer, I'm very interested, and I'm excited to see where it goes. And your performance is fantastic. So thank you so much, Kurt Russell, Monarch Legacy of Monsters. Watch all the episodes on Apple. Thank you so much.
Good talking to you, Chris.
Good talking to you, man. Thank you. Bye.